What's happening, man? Um, so originally, I said I wanted to do something on predictive programming, which I'm still gonna do, but I'm gonna expand that into a more broad topic because, in my opinion, predictive programming works hand in hand with like psychological operations, Psyops. And depending on how deep into this shit you are, you probably didn't heard the word psyop before. Maybe you know what that means, maybe you don't know what that means. I would love to tell you about it because I think it's a really sore subject for the people that do know what it is. I mean, Alex Jones is in the hole for $1 billion over trying to talk about a psyop. You know, he chose poor wording. You gotta pick the right wording, or else they gonna flip that shit on you and edit it to make it sound like you're saying something that you're not saying. Uh, and fuck it, I'm just gonna go on and say it because I'm not. I don't give a fuck if I get in trouble for saying it. So what Alex Jones did was one of those mass unalivings that happened, particularly at a school. He said it was fake, which it was, but not in the way that you would usually think when you say fake. It sounds like you mean in totality, like everything about it is fake. That's not what he meant. What he meant was staged. Staged. Not fake, because people really died. Beings really died from that. And that happens with most of them now. They didn't fake some shit before. I think I talked about how, I don't remember what country it is, but the alphabet agency, 3-letter alphabet agency, faked a vampire invasion in a country. I think it was to overthrow somebody or something. Smaller country, probably a third world country. I don't like using that terminology, but just so you get what I mean. They literally staged a vampire invasion, and it worked. They believed it. The only reason why people know it is because, the Freedom of Information Act. They document all this shit. And you can either hear somebody talk about it and be like, oh, nigga, that shit's fake. Or you can hear somebody talk about it and you can go look up the documentation because they tell you that they do these things. They tell you that they do these things. And so that's the kind of reason why I wanted to expand it into also talking about psyops. Because as if you have listened to my shit at all, I got like 3-4 different streams of consciousnesses going at one time. And so that makes me kind of hop all over the place. I say something, it sparks a fire to say something else that's loosely related or directly related but still not on the same topic. So just gonna move it in the direction of predictive programming and psyops, because essentially it's the same thing, right? Predictive programming is just kind of like a specific avenue of a psyop. Um, and the reason that I'm kind of touching on this is because I see it happening right now. It's happening right now. Everybody's talking about this fucking movie, and people that everyone can tell that it is predictive programming. You're supposed to be able to tell, and it's been like that with the last few big kind of like sci-fi type movies from Netflix. Don't Look Up. There's a bunch of them. Maniac, that one's kind of older. Um, Leave the World Behind. They clone Tyrone. These are all predictive programming. You could also call them disclosure, because essentially some of those, it's not letting you know something that is coming, it's letting you know something that's been done many times already to success. They clone Tyrone was not predictive programming. If you think that that is something that they're gonna do, then you need to do more research, because most of the shit that's in that movie is already done. They talked about deep underground military bases, DUMBs, those already exist. There's videos of that popping up all over the internet now. I feel like I sound old when I say this shit, but these are things that a lot of us that have been in this shit have been talking about for a while. And people that maybe are more eye-opened now, back then, were like, all right, nigga, whatever. You know, that shit sounded crazy. I think with that one specifically, deep underground military bases, as well as clones, that got kind of exposed to our community, our family, a little bit more so with Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele made a movie called Us. Really good movie. You got to watch it multiple times to get all the levels of it. But deep underground military base, experimentation on genes, gene editing, cloning. It's all in there. And, you know, metaphysical shit too, like dualistic nature, you know, shadow work. It's all kinds of shit in that movie. Jordan Peele may be a fucking weirdo. I don't know. He may be a weirdo. He may be just trying to tell us some shit. He's particularly good at hiding what type of time he's on, because he could be on some cool shit, letting the family know some stuff, or he could be doing the job that he was contracted to do. Could be both. Who the fuck knows, right? Anyway, so a lot of people are talking about this fucking movie and kind of thinking that they're putting you up on game, like, oh, that's predictive programming, bruh. And for people that are new to this, that sounds real, like, intelligent and smart, and oh, how'd you catch that? But it really don't take that much more experience to be like, yeah, nigga, it's, of course, that's very obvious. And so rather than doing a, you know, 85th breakdown of the movie and the esoteric, like, occult symbolism and symbology, and talking about how the t-shirts, oh, one says obey, one says NASA, like, these were very, very obvious things. If you take yourself, you got to watch movies more than once. If you know that there's messages in the movie, you got to watch them more than once, because the first time you're always paying attention to the plot. So if you're paying attention to the plot, you may not really be paying so much attention to what the characters are wearing or what the artwork in the background looks like throughout the movie, not just in a scene. If they keep going back to the same scene, second time you watch it or the third time you watch it, pay attention to the background, you know, because there is shit back there. And some people did some good breakdowns, but do we really need 30 breakdowns of the same movie? At some point it just becomes like, oh, I gotta cover this so I can, you know, make sure I get some money off it indirectly, you know. I gotta keep up with the algorithm, whatever the fuck they say to themselves that makes them do that. I made a video about how much it pissed me off. I didn't break down shit. I didn't talk about the plot. I said the name of the movie, but that was because I stopped watching the movie. The movie is still playing in the background of my video. It made me that mad. And I just, like, went off for a good 25-30 minutes. And so after I saw it, after it finally finished, I was like, I gotta talk about this shit, because people think that because they know what predictive programming is, that they have somehow beat it or you know, overpowered it. And the reality is that's, you know, that's too prideful. Prideful is not the right word. I'm just going on a couple days with very little sleep because of the little man being sick and whatnot. But it's too cocky to think that you have somehow beat that. Is too cocky, because the reality of it is that Hollywood is, I don't know which section is bigger, honestly, because Hollywood, it doesn't just make movies and TV shows or reality TV. Like, they make real reality TV. There are things that you think are real that are scripted, just like a TV show or just like a movie. Um, Fights between celebrities, uh, fights between political parties, between political constituents, extremists. Like, most of what you see in the media, in the news, is at least staged, if not completely, dramatized and fake. And that includes things like the example I gave earlier with, Alex Jones talking about that specific incident. Like, people think that because people die or really get sick or really lose somebody in a situation, that means it's not staged. And that's a mistake. That's how they get you. If you are aware that they will poison your food, poison your air, poison your water, give you poison when you go to the doctor, tell you the opposite of what you should do, um, you know, completely leave out things that you can do to be more healthy and give you more pills or more medication or whatever, then why would you think that they would not unalive people for a narrative? That, I mean, they don't care. They'll drone a wedding. The nigga that made this movie, that produced the movie that everybody's talking about, that nigga drone struck. That nigga drone struck a wedding. Schools, hospitals. These are not me just, making stuff up or loosely connecting dots. These are facts. You can go look the shit up. And, around certain times, certain political times, those were talking points that people that, some of y'all maybe didn't like so much, that were on an opposing side politically, which is goofy as fuck. They're all on the same side. And you didn't want to accept it because of who was saying it, or because you were so attached to or identifying with the fact that that particular politician looked like you, pigment-wise. But the reality is that nigga's related to the same king that the rest of the presidents are related to. They're all literally in the same family, same bloodline. They don't have to look alike, So that movie, yes, it is predictive programming, but the bigger issue is that it works because of psychological operations. The way that this is so pinpointed and deliberate and well planned and executed is crazy. I've gone off on that shit before in other videos. Like, they have the resources to have a full, 100, 200, 300 analysts coordinating on how to systematically bring about a certain outcome. So if you look at a situation and say to yourself, "Oh, there ain't no way they did that. That would take too much planning, or that would take too many people to keep secrets." I hate when people say that. How do you think that many people are keeping a secret? People can't keep secrets like that. No, they don't. But they get murdered after they talk about it. There's like this weird sectioning that generally beings, not just indigenous, but generally, all beings do. You know that XYZ is true, but for some reason in your head, you can say to yourself, oh, but this isn't true, which makes very, very little sense. Um, Damn, I hear the boy waking up. The fact of it is that psyops are very well planned out, probably by teams of people coordinating with each other, with other agencies, with civilians who get paid or who get blackmailed. Um, and they don't have to rush most of the time. They can take their time. They can plan out a full operation, put it into, effect, and take the next 30 years to very slowly inch it along until it comes to fruition. And it seems to me that the way that they would like for that to work is so slow and meticulous that you have very little clue that it happened. Whether it be inching you along in your perception of a thing until you don't even realize that now you're helping this operation, or a very sudden thing to promote a shock or a trauma that they know there's a good probability that when you get that shock or that trauma, you're going to go in this direction now. And that's the way that they've planned for you to go. Like I said, it's definitely gross, but it's also genius. It's genius, and I'm not going to give them too much credit when you have that much, when you got that much high power behind you. Of course you can do some shit like that. Because it gets to a point where when people do notice, you just do something to them. Whether it be a permanent something, or you blackmail them, or you threaten them, or you take their livelihood, or take their, whatever. That's what operators do. And many times they don't announce themselves as being affiliated with an agency or a government. They just pretend that they are a regular person who just met you at the bookstore. Predictive programming and psyops, for that matter, are not new. That's not new technique. That was used on the indigenous people of these lands to take the land from us. Look how long it took us to realize that we're not from Africa. When you hear people break that down and talk about the many reasons and the stacks upon stacks of details and evidence that show that that's not the case, it starts to feel like, oh shit, how did I ever believe that in the first place? But, evolution and ascension of the mind is a very, very real thing, because I can go to one of my parents or to somebody from that generation or going further back, and it's very hard to get them to see these truths because of things that they went through. But since it was, a different time, they really did go through shit. It's the same thing as that Alex Jones thing I said. Just because something happens doesn't mean that it's completely real. It just means that they don't give a fuck. They're not giving you quarter. They see it as war. It's the war that they're fighting has never stopped. There has never been a peacetime, even when you think or thought there was a peacetime, or there was a time where things were good or better. They were still fighting a war against you. And again, not just against indigenous people, just all of us, the entire family. The fact that you think there's a difference between indigenous people and people that don't have the same pigment shows how old psyops are. It's, speaking of ancient, whatever that means, because we have no clue what time really is, or what year we're in, or any of that shit. For all we know, let's say The oldest person listening to me talk is 100 years old. You could go back 150 years and maybe you see Lemuria or Atlantis. You have no idea. You have no idea. And the fact that we're so separated and at odds with each other shows how old and how successful these techniques are. Because when you really start to break a lot of these arguments and fights down, they're dumb. They're ridiculous. And you should be able to see it. I made a video earlier, an unexpected video, mind you, about some personal experience shit that had to do with, like, the gender war psyop. Very intentional. That's why you see certain podcasts, Fresh and Fit. I went that whole episode and couldn't remember these goofy ass niggas' podcast name. Fresh and Fit. This dude tells you he's an ex-FBI agent, which is a soft disclosure. That's a way of saying I work for the government. And his homie may very well be an asset. He may not even want to be there. You know? These are things that people don't even try to think about. They just think everything is organic. Everything is the way that it seems, the way that it looks. But I never think that. And you get called conspiratorial when you're like this, but I don't give a fuck about that because it helps me to stay on my pivot. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, Fresh and Fit, very good example of what seems very much to me to be just a straight psyop. Completely, it's low cost, low budget. That dude works for the government. There are plenty interagency operations. So he doesn't have to be, CIA or whatever. He can work for whatever agency he works for and still do work with them. And all their podcast is gender war. It's the whole premise of it. And people eat that shit up because of other facets of the very same psyop. If you pay attention, if you zoom out and pay attention to what people fight over and argue over, you just start to see layers. People fight over the pigment of their skin. And it's not to say that there's not good reason for people to feel jaded or angry or hurt or victimized or any of the shit that they feel. They should, because those things have really happened to them and to their people and their ancestors. But once you get to a certain point of discernment and your eye is open to a certain level, you should be able to say to yourself, there are many inconsistencies that were corralling you to that thought process. Why did they show us, if you lived in the South, why did they show us Roots so much? Like a 6 or 8 hour long movie about being a slave and just showing you certain things to reinstate a mindset. Every time we left that motherfucking classroom, it felt like we were back in those times. You see a white person, you see a European, a Caucasian, whatever you want to call them, because white, if you want to be real about it, the white people are not white, they're dark, they're indigenous, if you go by the technical term. Free white men are Moors. Every time we left the classroom, we were upset. It worked very well. I'm sure they're still doing it. Probably still doing it. That's why these movies are getting remade right now. I just realized that as I'm talking. Because you can't show that old-ass version of Roots with the dude from Reading Rainbow. You need to update it so that the kids now can be indoctrinated with something more hip. As they would call it, more hip, more with it. Them old-ass weirdo fuck niggas. You know, they remake these things so that they can continue the process of indoctrinating our people, our family, separating us, making us look at each other funny because we have different pigment, when in reality, I really just don't think that that shit matters as much as they say. I think that, and it's not to say that our species are particularly the same, but the farther you go back, when you start to get into Lemuria and Atlantis, we were still different species, I believe, but I think that we didn't view it that way. We didn't view things the way that we do now. We saw it differently. We were still family. We were still a community. You would still do anything for this person over here who doesn't look exactly like you. And somehow, either very abruptly or very slowly and meticulously, we've ended up here, where now we kill each other over shit that most of the time isn't even real. It's not even real history. Didn't happen. Hollywood. Hollywood has given you this idea of a history that did not happen. And that's all you have is pictures, which can be staged and doctored and all that other shit. Photoshop, real old, technology. Much older than people think it is. Film is not at all reliable. They faked whole operations with NASA. They still fake pictures of space and planets and stars and stuff. And you can go find them admitting to it. They don't hide that. They just don't talk about it very much. They have digital artists that render the pictures of the things that you think are stars and planets and all this other shit. Those are not real pictures. Which leads me to believe that, say for instance, the live streams of the ISS, I don't believe that's real either. There's too much technology available. There's too much capability. And then to take it further, why would they fake all of that? What are they trying to accomplish? They're planting seeds. They're planting seeds in your head. And this is the meticulousness. They need you to believe in a specific version of space first, right? Which you go back to, I think that was maybe the 60s or the 70s, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the moon landing, all these things planted a seed in everyone's head that up there is a specific thing. And so now, fast forward to now, people will damn near fight you if you say you don't necessarily know if you believe in that. You can be like, I don't know what's up there, but I don't think it's that. You can say that, and they'll freak out on you. They feel slighted. They feel threatened by you not being the same level of trusting and brainwashed as they are. And then you take another step. Now you start making alien movies. You've already solidified the space stuff. Now you start making alien movies, which I think started, you could say the 70s. And it did start in the 70s, but it really started rampant. People didn't care about or like that stuff as much until, I would say, the 90s, to be honest with you. X-Files and all that stuff. And with that comes the next step. You bring in spiritual stuff. You bring in cryptids. You bring in just anything from the imagination. Which on one level, you could say, oh, well, good, because imagination is very powerful. In a literal sense, very powerful, metaphysically powerful. But not when it's tweaked and used against you. When you're told to fear the things that these images and shows are getting you to imagine, then that's the flip. You are using your imagination, but it's out of fear instead of out of understanding the power that you hold within you. And so that's 3 steps taken. But then when you go talk to people, they say, oh, that's just a TV show, or oh, that's just a movie, you need to chill out. Then you start seeing pictures, you start seeing articles in newspapers. Then the internet, kind of booms, and you start seeing people making videos with video clips that are made to look like home video. Same thing there. People, oh man, chill out, bro. That's just conspiracy theory. Which that terminology was made at a specific time. Anybody who was talking about the Kennedy assassination, they created that terminology for those people to make them sound crazy. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. That's my best Midwest well-to-do person. You're just a conspiracy theorist. So now you got the internet kind of booming. People making their own videos. You start to see home videos, some of them real, some of them not. Which that goes into it too. You leave doubt. You spread the seeds of doubt along with the seeds of truth, so that people are second guessing themselves over and over again. Man, I don't even know what's fucking real anymore, bro. What the fuck am I doing? Some more time passes. Now you start releasing documentation with a whole bunch of redacted shit. And you make it seem like you didn't want to give it up. Man, can we postpone this again? No? Alright, well here you go. Here's the files. Whole bunch of redacted shit. So now you've got a group. You've got a group of people that form a small contingent of people that research this stuff, believe in this stuff. They find any information they can. They try to sift through and find the things that are real, and to dismiss the things that aren't real in their opinion, in their perspective. A little more time passes. More people believe, but they still sound crazy. Once you have your technology ready, which someone else has been working on, now it's time to start getting ready. So you start to leak little shit into the news, the real news, segments, real news stories, real interviews, shit in the papers and the magazines, and then you slowly trickle that up, and you get people thinking that you don't want this shit out, but you've lost control. You don't know how to reel it back in. Even though with other conspiracy theories, you'll just knock niggas off if you need to shut everybody up. So, side note to me, if it gets out of your hands, that means you wanted it out of your hands, because nothing is ever out of your hands. But anyway, next step is the full disclosure. You start at the very slow and meticulous process of the full disclosure. You find somebody who is still an operator and works for your agencies, and you pay them to be a whistleblower. And, they may be disseminating real information, real tests, real abductions, real, cases, real cryptids, whatever. But it's under your control. You're the one controlling the stream, and what details are given up, and what words are used, and all these things are very important in perception, especially on a mass scale, on a national scale, because people become sheep when they get grouped up like this. Most people, even the ones that think they're not, they're just in a smaller flock. So yeah, then you start releasing these supposed videos that your government, your armed forces, your agencies have so-called been recording this whole time. All very much, fakeable or stageable. You can make video look like it's from 1919, and you just shot that shit yesterday. I made the post that I don't believe shit. Anything for me is Bluebeam or Photoshop or deepfake until some niggas get off a ship wanting to, throw spades or bones or play me in chess or some shit. Until then, that shit is blue beam, bruh. Or it's a psyop. Or it's CGI. I'm that nigga, you know? And the thing is, I do believe in these things. I just don't trust them. Why the fuck would I trust them? Everything they do is disingenuous and harmful and traumatic. So why would I segment that? If I don't trust you over here, nigga, then I don't trust you over there, you know? And so now we're in current times. You see everyone's talking about UFOs. Everyone's talking about the Anunnaki. Everyone's talking about being a light worker or left hand path. Like, these are very, very specific topics that are being pushed to the forefront of the very same algorithms that control the mind of the hive. You know? And people don't put very much thought into these social media platforms and apps and shit. You're only seeing stuff most of the time because it's desired for you to see it. Yeah, you can go search out some shit specifically, and it could be argued that that's not intended for you to see necessarily, and that's a little bit more effort or whatever, and I do believe that's possible. But for the most part, the shit that gets pushed in your face is either legit some stage shit, or niggas get paid to make content for you to watch. That was the other thing that I wanted to bring up. All the videos of these influencers that pop up out of nowhere and they got millions of views all of a sudden. They have this vast catalog of shit. Some of those people are very real. They've been working hard at their craft, at their content, and they, got up to a certain point. Other ones, though, are assets who are pushing a narrative to corral your mind. And if you have read Behold a Pale Horse, or Project, Blue Beam, then you know that it is important for you to believe in aliens so that Blue Beam can work. Because you either need to believe in aliens or God, Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever. It's needed for you to believe in one of those things so that it can be projected for you to see and just break you right on down after you've been through some heinous shit that is going to come from other stuff like HARP and COINTELPRO shit and turning the armed forces against their own people, bringing in other people from outside of the country to take point in those armed forces, to take the jobs away from those that are from here. People keep saying to each other, oh, that's not going to happen because my dad is a general. He would never do that to us. Yeah, your dad's job's going to get taken by a nigga from Uruguay. Or from China. Because there's been a lot of Chinese immigrants coming in the past few days. Like, you got to be able to put all this shit together, bruh. It's not separate. These stories are not separate. It's all the same operation. It's just segmented. Operation Fishbowl. Operation Looking Glass. Like, all of these things, they're not as separate as you think they are. Fishbowl is to get them the fuck. Something scared them to the point where they were like, we need to get the fuck out of here. They very quickly stopped studying or looking for whatever they were doing in the ocean and said it's time to dip. But they can't. They've been working on it since the 70s, trying to get up out of here. They can't. Can't leave. That's why they're trying to open dimensional portals. They're making all kinds of rockets, faking operations to make it look like they're more advanced and more far along than they actually are. Trying to steal technology from beings from other places. Trying to go to inner Earth. None of the shit works for them. None of the shit works for them. It's macrocosm, microcosm. The same Star of David people that keep getting kicked out of countries because of the stuff that they do, the things that they do to children and all that. That's the microcosm. The macrocosm is those same people. You go back farther, maybe they came here from somewhere. Maybe they came here from somewhere and now they're like, oh fuck, we need to get the fuck off this bitch because it's finna go down. And whatever that was down there was not hospitable. It does not like us being here. You know? And if you know how to watch these movies and these TV shows, you can see the programming, you can see the psyops. You know, some of them are directly about it. There's been a few movies about the Helter Skelter dude, Charles Manson, who is not dead. Charles Manson, people don't believe you when you say shit like this, but there's two options. Either this nigga had a clone, which is very possible, or he had a twin brother that they just never told anyone about, which I guess is possible but not very probable, or this nigga fulfilled his contract with the agency and they put him in WITSEC in Texas and he works as a commercial painter. Go look the video up. He says, it's me. Well, okay, well, what's your name? Charlie. And if you know anything about Charles Manson, that was not a straightforward situation. They did experiments, MK Ultra experiments on that dude and the people that were around him and the people that were in that area. LSD experiments. Then they taught him how to effectively be a cult leader and flip people. He talked about it all the time. Like, people just struggle so much with their personal life that they don't know these things, but then when you get into a debate or a conversation with them about it, they think they know all about it, and they'll argue with you, even though I know more than you do, not you, but in the debate or argument, because I can tell you where I got the information from. I can back it up with facts. Especially now that it's that easy to pull up on the internet. This shit runs deep. Like, predictive programming and psyops has been happening to us and our family, our people, since whoever they are got here. As soon as they got here, they started doing that. Why do you think there's all these pictures and videos of Tartarian cities basically empty, and these niggas are on horse and buggy? They ain't got no power tools. They don't have any kind of large construction equipment to build any of that shit. There's pretty compelling evidence that New York looked like that already, as far back as the 1800s. Which would explain, for instance, Gangs of New York, the movie Gangs of New York. Like, they make these movies to entertain you, because entertainment is the circus. Give them bread in circuses, and they'll never pay attention. That's not a part of the quote, but that's basically what it means. Give them what they need, what they think they need. So food, empty food, and entertainment, and they won't ever rise up to defend themselves. So they make these movies, and the doublespeak is, this is entertainment, but this is also to disclose to you something that is the opposite of what the truth actually is. Because they made it look like it was overpopulated, but they made it look like there weren't any buildings, big buildings there. But you can go find video and photos from multiple sources. So either they spread those to a bunch of different sources, or that part of history doesn't make sense. And All it takes is for you to go to Washington, D.C., or the capital, or the downtown area of any of the major or even mid-level metropolitan areas in cities, and you can tell that that shit wasn't built by them people at the time that they say they built it. It don't even make sense for them to claim that. You can see old Tartarian bridges, buildings. I'm not going to get off on a Tartarian rant because I'll go off on that shit. Very interested in that. I'm definitely going to try to cover that. And when I say cover, when I cover these things and talk about these things, obviously I'm not doing presentations like you see some of the better channels doing, like a Library of the Untold or Mind Unveiled. That's not my kind of stuff. I don't do that kind of content yet. I probably will at some point, but right now I'm just kicking thoughts to you, trying to get y'all to think too. It's unfortunate because you can bring up factual happenings, probable occurrences, inconsistencies in the colloquial history that we've been given to continue to share with each other and our children. That's how it gets perpetuated. And then you've been indoctrinated so hard, your parents have been indoctrinated so hard that you'll fight somebody if they present another version of what maybe has happened. And now, I can't figure this out at all. For some reason, it's flipped. And the idea that this is the case is being pushed, not just corroborated, but pushed. Now there's like staged content, fake influencers that are talking about Tartaria. They're talking about the inconsistencies in time and history. They're talking about how mystery is more accurate than history. It seems like that thing where it's like, make them not know what to think anymore. Lie to them for years and then just start dropping the real shit, and then they won't know what to think or what to do. That's what it feels like. But, just speaking for myself, I think my discernment is pretty fucking good. So if something sounds dumb or made up or, some kind of like operation or plan to me, then I just move assuming that it is until something proves me wrong. If something seems like it's right, if it makes sense, more sense than the shit I was originally taught or originally thought, then same thing there. I move with it. That's what I think now. I just don't necessarily present it to y'all like that all the time, because I like to leave it open for you to make your own leaps. That's the best way. Because once you're wrong about a few things, you start to really like learn how to discern that shit, instead of just being like, okay, well, they're doing something fucked up every time, so I'm just gonna assume the opposite is true every time. You can't do that, because sometimes they tell you the truth just to throw you off, because the truth sounds so crazy. Why would you believe it? Bigfoot, Sasquatch, them niggas are real. Like, and now they're starting to talk about it on an official capacity. They're starting to talk about it. They got people from distinguished universities and research teams pulling out bones, genetic tests, DNA sequences, like really saying, hey, they're real. Some of them have human DNA. Some of them, we don't know what the fuck that is. They all look the same, but some of them seem to be related to a previous state of human. Some of them are just, they seem like they're on some extraterrestrial shit. And we don't know that they're coexisting, because you really don't see too many of them together at once anyway. And you don't know, you might be able to stand them next to each other and tell the difference. It could be like Puerto Ricans or Cubanos and indigenous people from America. They look kind of the same, but you stand them next to each other, you can tell the difference. We're all related, but something like I said, I think we've been um, groomed to view this shit wrong. We don't we don't view this shit the right way, and maybe we're starting to reach a point where we can really get it and know how to put the puzzle pieces together, which is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to be able to put these puzzles together without their help, because obviously they don't want to help. Never have in my entire lifetime, so why would they start now? Um, so when people get to talking about fucking skinwalkers and giants and all these things, this shit doesn't just come out of nowhere. Like, the imagination creates. So even if the thing didn't necessarily exist before, once someone imagined it, especially once a group of people imagine it, then you got an egregore, and that brings it to life. We have real power, we have real capabilities once that many people start to imagine a thing and create the myth of the thing, the lore of the thing, the laws of how it works and all that shit. Like, you have created it. And we don't know how time and space work. Once you create it, maybe that affects history, mystery, and you've given it a past too, that some people will suddenly and magically remember. We don't know how none of this shit works, bro. And I really am thankful, and I have gratitude that my brain has started to really kick back in and understand how little I know in the grand scheme of things, because it allows me to ask these questions very quickly, whereas before it might have taken years for me to be like, hold up, that don't make sense. And the faster that question or that epiphany happens, the quicker I am at trying to decode this shit, because people are decoding things that seem like don't really matter too much and are contradictory. Like, it's good that we know that we're indigenous, but the fuck, I mean, there's even bigger issues than that, really. And if you can go from one, set of content or video or essay or whatever you do, saying that money is not important and so on, government's not cool, but then you turn right back around and you posting videos of Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whoever, and you're talking about cryptocurrency or the market and how it's going to crash and all this other. These are contradictions. I'm not absolute in many things, but I'm definitely absolute in this. There is something bigger than all that, and the biggest I've been able to expand it to is Lemuria and Atlantis. Something happened to us, and the terminology didn't come out of nowhere, of being asleep and waking up and remembering. These are not mistakes. It makes me think that there are two main entities that are kind of battling for us in a way. One of them is trying to get us to remember and wake up and see things for how they are, get out of this stupor, this spell that we're under or whatever. The other one obviously put us there and did all this shit, and is fighting very hard to subdue us back down, because we're stirring, we're moving around. Some of us, we're doing stuff, and these rumblings are not good for business. You know what I mean? And personally, I think it has something to do with them two black goos, the agreeable black goo and the disagreeable black goo, because it just makes the most sense. If these are the oldest life forms on the realm, and you have infinite time and space, and your physics don't work like the physics that we are familiar with, why wouldn't you think you were God? Why wouldn't you think you're the devil? And it's not to say that those are absolute, because I also believe in, the stories of Inky and Lil, Thoth, all those mystery systems. A lot of the time, it's just niggas changing their name. But I do believe that those people, beings existed. I just think we've all been warped so much. It's to a level where we literally don't know anything, but we think we know everything. We're taught or told something and just accept it, and then from that point on, we'll fight for that. We'll fight for that knowledge that we didn't even prove to ourselves. We were just handed it by somebody who we know don't give a fuck about us. It's that compartmentalized thing again. Like, I know that you'll do X, Y, Z, but thank you for teaching me about the sky. You know what I mean? Thank you for teaching me about space. The moon, yes. Like, it's goofy. The lack of critical thinking is immense. It's immense because not only is the lack of critical thinking there, you'll also attack somebody for having that critical thinking or for having that discernment or for not just accepting everything that's handed to them as truth. You'll ostracize them, you'll make them a pariah, you'll take them to fucking prison. You know, just all these very extreme responses to someone who may not even believe the shit. Maybe they're just coming up with theories because they want to know the truth and they're just working it out. Regardless to any of that, it's a damn shame. And there are people that are really making sense with their theories. Jay Dreamers talks about the plasma apocalypse a lot. And he's got, documented facts on the firmament cracking open and depressurizing the realm, plasma events, plasma phenomena, the Younger Dryas, the deluge, the flood sounds way worse than the fire. Ice Age, Inner Earth, very good channel. Jay Dreamers with a Z. Mind Unveiled, same thing there. They've done an extensive amount of research on Tartaria, on the Cabbage Patch Kids, the cloning experiments, genetic manipulation. These things exist, bruh. You can go back and see them. You just have to be able to read it. There are so many postcards with Cabbage Patch Kids and babies in Cabbage Patch fields and all this symbology, and it's like, where did that come from? Why y'all keep referring to them as Cabbage Patch Kids? Why is there a movie where babies are born from cabbage? Like, read between the lines, bruh. That's not imagination. That's not fiction. It comes from something, and maybe it's symbology or symbolism. Maybe it's literal as fuck. Like, you really gotta be able to shake off the belief that you know everything or you know so much, because to me, anything that they were willing to teach you or to give you as knowledge is probably straight boo-boo. It's probably goofy as hell. Our beliefs on physics, our beliefs on, supposed psychology, sociology, archaeology, all of this shit is, if they're willing to give you some information, you gotta double take that shit and be like, okay, so you don't like me though, so why would you be giving me anything? That's what I think to myself. Every time. It's like, you hate me though, so why would you give me anything? You literally poison me every day, so why would you be giving me anything positive? Speaking of which, I want to talk about the healthcare system and my experience, my personal experience with it, and the experience that I had the other night. I might have to record that one either later tonight or tomorrow, though, because my eyes are getting heavy. I really be expending some energy doing these talks, bro. I don't know. I haven't decided. We'll see. I think I might still need to go on this one.